Hello, and welcome to this Morpheus Tech Brief on what's new in Morpheus 6.2. I'm Martez Reed, Director of Technical Marketing with Morpheus Data. Before we jump into what's new in the 6.2 release of the Morpheus platform, just want to give a brief overview of where the Morpheus platform looks to provide value to our customers. Hybrid cloud management is a core aspect of the Morpheus platform to be able to facilitate the deployment of workloads both on-prem as well as in the public cloud. Container management is an area where the Morpheus platform provides value for our customers, particularly integrating with Kubernetes clusters as well as building out Kubernetes clusters. Infrastructure automation, which here actually contains a number of different facets or components from a technology perspective. This includes technologies such as infrastructure as code to help facilitate infrastructure deployments, utilizing infrastructure as code tooling such as HashiCorp Terraform, as well as automation tools, and some of those traditionally classified as configuration management tools such as Chef, Ansible, Puppet, as well as various automation scripts. And then finally, IT service management is a core aspect of the platform in which we are going to integrate or tie into ITIL processes such as change management, CMDB, updates and management from the Morpheus platform's perspective, as well as the ability to be able to, with integrations such as the ServiceNow integration, tie into the request process and approval process. So with that being said, we'll jump into the release cycle updates. For those that are not familiar with the updates that were made earlier this year to how Morpheus releases work, we're going to review that quickly to ensure that we have a level set understanding of how the releases work, in particular with the LTS, as well as the standard releases of the Morpheus platform. Towards the beginning of this year, we released the 6.0 LTS release of the Morpheus platform. So with the new release cadence, there will be 2 LTS releases per year. Towards the beginning of this year was the 6.0 LTS, and now we're referencing the 6.2 LTS of the Morpheus platform. So the first LTS was released earlier this year, and now the second LTS was released, I believe last week was when it was actually released. So in between those 2 LTS releases per year, there are standard releases of the Morpheus platform. Both releases are going to get monthly fixes or patches for the given release. The standard release will include net new features along the process of its development. So every 6 months, you're going to see a new LTS release, and in the months or the quarters in between those, there'll be standard releases. New features added to standard releases will make it into the next LTS release in the Morpheus platform. They will not be backported into the previous LTS. So for the understanding purposes, 6.2 LTS is what we're going to cover in this particular tech webinar in terms of what's new, but for reference purposes, those that may still be on the 5.4 release of the Morpheus platform, we're going to quickly recap a number of the new features which were introduced in the 6.0 LTS release of the platform, which will also be available in the 6.2 release of the platform. So we're going to recap really quick what's in 6.0, as well as then head on to what's new in the 6.2 release of the platform. So for those that were familiar with the 6.1 standard release of the platform, those are the features that are going into the 6.2 release of Morpheus platform. So with that being said, we're going to quickly recap some of the major features in the 6.0 LTS release of the platform. There is a tech brief that covered this in depth that is available on the Morpheus Data YouTube page that covers the 6.0, what's new in the 6.0 LTS. But a number of the major features, the new default dashboard. So when you first log into the Morpheus platform, the default dashboard has been updated and revamped with a new look and feel, new visualizations. Object labels were added into the platform to organize and filter various different objects such as tasks, spec templates, instance types, node types within the Morpheus platform to provide or associate metadata with those given objects. There's a number of updates to role-based access control for the 6.0 LTS release that included things like permission categories, the ability to be able to search for specific features to enable our administrators to have a more simplified experience as it relates to management of roles and the role-based access permissions. The instance detail UI was updated to include new visualizations as well as visualizing new data, well, technically existing data that just needed to be surfaced into that particular part of the Morpheus UI. Added support for IPv6 IP pools. So previously the platform only supported IPv4 IP pools. IPv6 support was added. Service catalog categories for our customers that have potentially tens or hundreds of catalog items. They can now associate a category with catalog items to simplify the end user's experience in terms of sorting and filtering for different things within that catalog. Zone pool groups, so being able to essentially add additional intelligence or logic to where a workload is deployed from a zone pool standpoint. So being able to aggregate zone pools into a group for deployment purposes. Support for GCP custom machine types was added. GCP is a cloud that has the ability to be able to define a custom hardware configuration. And so this now allows our users to be able to integrate with that construct from Morpheus platform's perspective to be able to select the particular CPU and memory for that particular workload. Task and workflow-based access control. So now there's the ability to be able to granularly assign a given task or a workflow to a role within the platform. Approvals for operational workflows were added in the 6.0 LTS release of the platform to allow administrators to be able to allow users to be able to self-serve, or for, let's say, potentially privileged operational workflows to be able to associate approvals for those before they're executed. Dynamic automation targets take advantage of the object labels that we talked about in terms of being able to target workloads based upon a label that is associated with that particular workload in a dynamic fashion. And then finally, nested workflows. So the ability to be able to add an existing workflow to a new workflow, essentially as a base component, and then being able to add upon that with additional tasks. So these are some of the net new features that were added in the 6.0 LTS release. As I said, there is a YouTube video that covers these features as well as more that were added in the 6.0 LTS release in much more detail. So that being said, with the brief recap, we'll go to what's new specifically in the 6.2 LTS release of the Morpheus platform. So one of the major features that was added was what we term as form builder. So the Morpheus platform has the ability to be able to create catalog items to provide a simplified request experience for users within the Morpheus platform. So certainly for those that are familiar, you go into catalog items and you start adding things to the catalog item, whether it be an instance catalog item, a blueprint catalog item, or a workflow catalog item. One of the things that form builder allows Morpheus administrators to now do is provide a more intricate or complex form for users to be able to request. And so the example that we see here on the screen is one that includes a number of new constructs that are included with the form builder feature. The first one is new input types. So for catalog items that leverage the form builder or forms construct within the Morpheus platform, there are something like 18 new input types that can be added to those particular forms within the platform. Some of the ones that we see even in this screenshot are things like being able to add disk and networks and layouts and plans. These things or these inputs are essentially the same ones that can be found within the Morpheus platform when you go through this standard provisioning UI or standard provisioning wizard. So this now enables Morpheus administrators to be able to use those same sort of constructs or inputs in their own forms for catalog items. So there's a number of different ones that have been added and are available when a form is associated with a catalog item. Another thing that was added was the concept or construct of field groups. Now, what this does is provides a way for inputs to be categorized or grouped on a given form. And so one of the things that we see here in this particular example is there is placement and customizations. So the individual inputs are added to those particular field groups for categorization and association. The field groups do support the ability to be able to be collapsed. So in the interest of saving space, you can have a number of field groups that have several inputs, and as opposed to having users have to essentially scroll and scroll and scroll, you're able to leverage the ability to collapse a given field group. So we got a question in regards to one of the inputs. So there is option to use domain in the advanced selection in the form build is missing. So they plan to add this field in as well along with the network field. Also being able to specify the network domain. At the moment, I don't believe that adding specifically in domain is planned. Certainly that would be something that would be of interest to us in terms of if our users are requesting that feature specifically. So that would certainly be a great thing to add in the community forums in the ideas section so that we can gauge the level of interest in that particular feature. Thanks for the question. So this net new capability unlocks a number of additional complex use cases for the service catalog and the request forms. So certainly a step forward in terms of what can be done to provide that greater customization of those catalog items within the Morpheus platform. And something we're really excited about and continuing to extend and expand upon the capability to better serve our customers as it relates to how they're able to present the catalog items to their customers. Another feature that is net new to the 6.2 LTS release of the Morpheus platform is what we term as import-export. Essentially what it is being able to leverage the constructor capability in the Morpheus platform to define essentially Morpheus configuration as code. So one of the things that we see in this particular screenshot is a scribe resource as it's referenced. Essentially what that means is a Morpheus construct or concept that is codified in HCL. So for those that are familiar with HashiCorp Terraform, this looks quite familiar in that it is HashiCorp configuration language that is being leveraged to be able to define this particular configuration for a task set, or more commonly referred to as a workflow within the Morpheus platform. And so what this is going to provide is the ability to be able to integrate the Morpheus platform with a Git repository and leverage that integration with the Git repository to be able to push, export, as well as pull configuration, import into a given Morpheus platform. Common use case that we believe that this would be leveraged for is the ability to be able to promote configuration from one Morpheus environment to another, whether that be a lower level environment to a higher level environment, or for a number of our customers that may have multiple Morpheus deployments for their given customers, being able to leverage that capability to be able to perform those operations. There's a number of modes in which the import-export feature can be operated, both manual, so where you're going in and specifying explicitly that you want to export a given resource or all the resources within the Morpheus platform, as well as being able to manually import given resources from a Git repository into a particular installation of the Morpheus platform. The feature does also support the ability to be able to export and import on a scheduled basis. to be able to essentially or effectively back up configuration from a given Morpheus platform into a Git repository. The feature does allow for filtering based upon object labels, which is what we talked about being added in the 6.0 LTS release of the Morpheus platform. So being able to specify or associate certain labels with objects that you want to export or import from a given configuration environment. As of this release, there are a certain number of features or resources that are supported for import and export. Tasks, workflows, spec templates, and library items are what are supported via the import-export feature. It will perform essentially dependency mapping to find out which associated resources are necessary for a given object or item as part of the export process. One of the things that has been produced is a video that covers the import-export feature in great detail on the Morpheus YouTube page. So www.youtube.com/GoMorpheus. And there is an import-export video for Morpheus 6.2 that covers the import-export feature in great detail. So we got a question: is Morpheus API type option list extended as well for these easier inputs? There are a number of Morpheus API type option lists that are available with the form builder capability, such as like the networks, the clouds, the resource pools. Those various constructs have been added as input types into the form builder, in which you can go ahead and specify those. So I believe that answers the question. There are many of those Morpheus API option types that were added into the form builder functionality. All right, additional updates surrounding out the net new features that were added in the 6.2 LTS. AWS all regions support. So in previous releases of the Morpheus platform, when you needed to add a new AWS cloud into the platform, what had to be done was a specific region in that AWS account had to be specified for the cloud integration. What this now enables is the ability to be able to scope the cloud integration to all regions in the given AWS account. In many cases, this may be leveraged from a design perspective to reduce the number of integrations that are necessary for the given cloud. Certainly one thing to be mindful of is the design pattern of associating clouds to groups, in which it may still make more sense to have individual regions for a given cloud integration, to have greater control over which regions for a given account can be associated with a given group. So certainly it's a new feature that does provide some benefits, but certainly there's caveats to be aware of as you design or have designed your environment as it relates to users having access to groups and then groups having clouds associated with them. Workflow phase selection. So for existing instances, when you go into actions and select a workflow, now if you select a provisioning workflow for an existing instance, there is a drop down to select the given phase that you would like to execute against that given workload. Previously, only the provisioning phase for that provisioning workflow was executed when you were to run that provisioning workflow. So this now allows the ability to be able to granularly select the given phase that you would like to execute. Updates have been made to the Morpheus Kubernetes service, or MKS. GCP and VCD layouts have been added for Kubernetes 1.25, 1.26, as well as 1.27 into the Morpheus platform. And finally, As of 6.2 release of the Morpheus platform, NSXV support has been removed. It was deprecated in the 6.0 LTS release of the platform. So certainly something to be aware of. Also, one of the things that I would like to call out is ensure that you go through the release notes for the given release to ensure that you're aware of any either breaking changes, potentially, or any caveats that you need to be aware of as you go to upgrade your environment and ensure that you're fully equipped and fully aware of what needs to be done as part of the upgrade process. So that covers the new features introduced in the 6.2 LTS release of the Morpheus platform. So certainly the 6.0 LTS release of the platform included essentially a laundry list of net new features and capabilities. The 6.2 LTS has a number of fewer features, but certainly a number of very impactful features that we believe will be beneficial to our customers. Definitely appreciate everyone taking the time and joining this webinar and walking through what's new in the 6.2 LTS release of the Morpheus platform. Thank you for joining and have a great day.